Lauderdale, Florida. This is NAB Show Live.
Ryan Salazar here with another edition of NAB Show Live and Broadcast Beat's Pre-NAB Show coverage. We've got Louis Kirkaldie, Head of Product Management at Cinegy. How you doing, sir?
I'm not doing too bad, Ryan. How are you?
So tell us about Cinegy. How did you guys get started?
Oh, it's like 15 years ago now. Cinegy was brought in to work on a project for the BBC. This is how I first came into contact with Cinegy when I worked there at the Beeb. So back in around 2000, there was a requirement to start pulling all of the amazing natural history footage that the BBC has as they were making a whole new program called Planet Earth. And they wanted to try and pull all this in and manage it and get best value out of their production rushes. So Cinegy as a company was formed around then and worked on delivering that project.
Asset management is such a big thing, managing audio and video and all sorts of other stuff during projects. Talk about the history of that.
Yeah, I mean, what was really interesting with that particular project is that up until then, the BBC had been filming things and then using text-based search to find shots. And so, when you type in a text-based search, salmon spawning in river, you've no idea what you're going to get when you eventually order up the film and somebody spends money transferring it. So it was absolutely the first time the BBC had ever done a production and then been able to type in salmon spawning in river and then get 12 hours of different shots of salmon. That was the first show I can think of in my experience where whole new shows, and in fact an IMAX movie was built off the back of this, all within that one program budget.
So you guys provide media asset management. You also have editing platforms. If you could talk about your product line, that would be awesome.
Yeah, well, I mean, back on that evolution there. So what happened after we'd done that early stuff with the BBC there is we got involved with the BBC Strictly Come Dancing show. And you guys in the States would know it as Dancing with the Stars. That's the franchise that came from the UK. And so when they introduced our MAM platform, it's got to be getting close to 10 years again now, they'd already run a season or two of the show, but they were actually able to introduce nightly shows off the back of implementing a MAM that then meant their rushes were under control and they were able to comp them down. That was the first time I heard the term Predator production editor that would comp down things into bins and run that through into the Avid. And so what we were able to see there is that coincided with the rise of some more channels, terrestrial channels and cable channels, and the BBC launched a few more channels. So they actually increased their output quite a lot off the back of suddenly having all of this massive amount of content in a way they could manage and brought back down so that they could run that into the Avid. So, that's when we started getting out of just MAM and moving into some integrated transcoders and some dedicated Avid integration stuff. We increased some of the capabilities of our logging tool to try and make a really nice mechanism to move through there. And then that's just evolved and iterated to add capabilities like stripping proxies off of XDCAM disks and tighter integration with the Avid, so we can actually do a kind of offline inside the Cinegy system, just to deal with those massive volumes of quantities of things. So, in the UK and elsewhere in Europe, we really are used for the biggest reality shows in the UK and their equivalents around Germany and so on, and across into Eastern Europe. So, that drove us a huge amount in that space before we were inevitably dragged into getting involved, of all things, in a newsroom in the BBC and elsewhere in Turkey at CNN Turk and so on.
We've got your product here at Broadcast Beat, and what's cool about your product is that in the editing platform, you can physically search for assets and then bring them right on into the project. And in a lot of cases, in most other platforms, you have to search with an external application and then drag it in or do some sort of import process. Is that right?
Yeah. And I mean, the great thing about using our platform is when you use it on just one laptop, you kind of think, wow, this seems a bit overly complicated. Why am I bringing this in like this? And then when you scale that out, even to just half a dozen people, but when you start having multiple people working together, that's when it really shines. And so, our biggest customer's got 600 active users on the one database in the peak of the day. And so when you just know that anyone can plug something in, they log some information, within 5 seconds of that log being entered, somebody can search for it and find that video if they've got permission and pull it in. It's a real game changer once you get to that kind of scale.
Again, that was Louis Kirkaldie, Head of Product Management at Cinegy. Thanks so much for spending some time with us. And go ahead and share your booth number, sir.
Hey, we're in South Lower. That's SL 11116, 11116.